Okay, Mina. This is a very simple logo, but very cool, isn't it? It's a Moroccan sauces, so I guess it's a Moroccan company, and it looks that's what kind of what it looks like, doesn't it? It's got a very Eastern feel, and I love how they have that. I'm not sure if that's evocative of a lotus, but it's obviously some kind of organic symbol, probably a lotus, and that stands in for the dot, which is missing in the eye. So again, that's a really simple but clever idea, and they made it extra large and a different color, um, and so that becomes part of their branding. It's this basic shape, very elegant looking font, yet extremely simple. Probably tweaked after the fact. It looks like you know I have a version here that makes it seem a little more distorted than it probably is. But you know, super simple, all lowercase letters, two colors. Molina Healthcare. Again, the idea of that sort of pattern, graphic on the left, text on the right. This time they aligned bottom, two colors. Natural herbs and spices. Notice how the only thing that's black is the leaf, and you see how it takes on more visual weight because it's so dark, and it also draws your eye flow into that shape, So that's visual flow, and not only does it flow you into the leaf, but it flows you into the idea, herbs and spices. I'm not crazy about how the letter N inside the circle. I'm not crazy about that font. I love the font on the word natural and herbs and spices as well. And by the way, I love how the herbs and spices is all caps and natural is all lower. I love that. It's like you can play with these contrasts. Like in other words, take contrast, push it to the edge. It's an emphasis of hierarchy. Natural, you want it to be first, herbs and spices second. But because you flipped sort of a natural inclination, like if it's first, it must be all caps. If it's second, it must not be. That's not true. It doesn't. If you play with sort of expectations like that, you can add interest, and it can be something that looks unusual, and that can add, sort of you can differentiate and add sort of an original look to it. And they also, I like that they have space between, herbs and spices. Like and is sort of small and all alone down there. Again, that I think adds a rhythm and some interest to it. And it gives it kind of an open feeling. But the N that's used on top, it's just too corporate looking. I don't like it. I would have found a better letter form, a better font for that. One I think that relates more to what's going on. You got a leaf, and you've got these curvilinear, very organic looking letter forms on the bottom that just kick ass. You know, and a circle, which is very organic, and then you've got this slab serif Roman style. It doesn't make any sense, but it's a pretty decent logo. This is an example of a vertical logo. You don't see a lot of those, and I think part of the reason is it doesn't always stack up well when it's with a bunch of other logos like in rows. It can get lost a little bit, um, but that doesn't mean it can't be one of the great best logos. And I don't want to discourage you from doing a vertical logo. It's just it can create more problems than if you're doing a horizontal logo. That's my point. Green Bay Packers, super simple logo. Two ovals and a big letter G. They made it look like a football. So they took one basic idea. Let's simplify a football shape, turn it into the first letter of the name, Green Bay. Boom. Super simple idea, but a good idea, smart, and a very simple two colors as well. Perfect Potion. I like that. This looks like that was some kind of mezzotint or some kind of print. Like maybe like a lithograph. It looks like a hand. It's very arty. It's got this handmade look to it, which I think is perfect, And obviously the color green, the leaf shapes, you know, um, the hand. I don't know if I looked up this company, but I believe they're, some kind of skin lotion company. And it's almost like you're looking down into a jar of skin lotion. You can put your hands in it. It's got this sort of creamy look to it almost. Probably did that as a vector object in Illustrator. Not exactly sure. Text on a path. I have a video this week showing how to do that. Perfectly kerned. The space between the letter forms is just excellent. The word potion may be a little bit bigger than perfect, but I don't have a problem with that because I think they just wanted to fill the space a little better. But that could be an illusion. I'm not sure. Has this kind of feel like a stamp as well. One color, very simple. Plainsville Farms. It's okay. But it's very professional looking in terms of the space between the letters is perfect. The kerning, it's aligned really well, a very symmetrical centered alignment. The only exception is the sun and the grass form underneath it are slightly to the right. And the reason they did that is because they're repeating a curve of the V. So again, that's using repetition, repeating what's going on in the letter forms of the main headline into the main graphic image. Okay. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4 colors. Again, different fonts. The name of the company is Plainville Farms, but again, Plainville is what they're branding. That's what they want you to take away. The word farms, it's there, it's important, it's the name, but obviously Plainville came first, and the font choice for that word is very organic, and very reminiscent of the open rolling fields. And then the word farms is very, very, sort of corporate professional looking, very aerial. And maybe this is a corporate farm. That would be I didn't look this one up, but I would guess that's what it is. Probably like a big company-owned agri-farm, but I'm not sure. But see, when you have a contrast of the organic, swoopy font like that to the very tight corporate Arial-looking font, usually that Arial reminds one of like a corporate branding. At least that's what it's become. Post-it, classic brand. It's simple, but it looks complex, doesn't it? I mean, this is our product. They branded themselves by doing a simplified version of what the product is, and it's the simplest product as far as shapes go. It's a rectangle, but they made it interesting by skewing it so that it looks like maybe it's falling, like it's a perspective. They bent it, and it's almost an arc now, and that's a very the colors are bright and bold, and they did this sort of bold drop shadow effect and outline, and then curved it large over the entire Post-it brand text. And I think what that graphic image in the back like that does for me, it's playful. I mean, it's not a playful product, not really. It's very commonly used and just very necessary. But it could be playful. You could leave notes for people, like playful notes, or I think the idea of something that everybody uses. This is a product for you, everyday person. And then a very blocky, simple font for the Post-it, contrasted with the word brand, which is incredibly thin and a lot more, and spread out. Well, a little more spread out. So again, that's a theme we've been seeing here, is this use of contrast between two words, which may or may not be the entire name. In this case, Post-it is the trademark, the registered trademark, and brand is part of the overall name. So it's weird that you can separate those like that, but um, look at the contrast. I mean, it's done so well. Three colors, four colors. This is one of my favorite logos ever. This is a Madison-based company, or at least it used to be. It's just the battery. The battery lightning bolt is just right in the middle of the O, centered perfectly. You got Ray and Vac, and then the lightning bolt. It's just the simplest, coolest design. And what's also cool about it is how open the letter forms are. They're white with just a block outline, and they're kerned right up against each other. So there's no differentiation of space in between. It's just one, but they don't continue the outlines. Um, they kind of break it off. So I'm sure there was a lot of work done after the fact. It's not, the font just didn't kern together like this. So it resembles a battery. They took maybe like a double A battery shape, rectangular and thin like that, and they've kind of recreated it in the text treatment of the name of the company itself. Isn't that clever? It looks like a battery, and it's light and open, just like a battery is usually. They're silver, normally, or gold. But that lightning bolt right in the middle of the O like that, that's one of my favorite logos. Two colors. Remington, you can't get more simple than this. Remington brands, it's shavers. A rectangle, and then a really cool sort of classic font, for the upscale gentleman. For a better shave. But, how did they get to the point where they just decided on a rectangle for their graphic? I mean, how many meetings and versions did they have to go through to get there? It makes one wonder. I mean, I'd have to research it to know more, but so this again reinforces the idea of you can simplify your graphic so much that it may not even resemble the product or whatever the idea is at all. That's okay too, as long as the overall is reminiscent somehow of the idea or product or target market, i.e., in this case, the font is sort of an elegant, more uptown, upscale look to it, and I'm sure that's what they were going for. And also, one more thing, the idea of just blocks like that, like one simple rectangle. You do see that in European logos a lot more, where they're just a series of chunks of blocks. So maybe they were trying to appeal to that mindset as well. I'm not sure. Reprise Records. Neil Young used to be in Reprise, I believe, back in the day. It's the letter form of the R. I think that's supposed to be, like a close-up of a typewriter stroke. Because if you look at a typewriter stroke, and there's fonts now, typewriter fonts you can find online, that's sort of what they look like. They're trying to mimic that jagged edge. Like if you ever have a chance to type on an old-fashioned typewriter, if your grandma or somebody has one, type in some letters and then look at it in a magnifying glass, and the edges kind of look like that. They're not very clean. And so that was part of their branding, Bringing something back, reprise. The show is awesome, but now it's time for the reprise. We're going to bring back the genius, So it's a continuity. One color, really simple. And the contrast between the R font shape and the Reprise Records text is obvious as well. Reprise Records is very corporate, very clean, and super kerned. Although it's not as corporate as I've seen. I mean, it's also, it has a sort of a character as well. I mean, it's a corporate company, it's a corporation, but I think even with the Reprise Records text, all caps and kerned like that, it's got a sense of, sort of real, not aerial or too sort of phony. Tata. Tata. This is some global conglomerate. Not even sure what they do. I think they just buy other companies or something. I don't know. It's got this European look to it, the way the Tata text is treated. You tend to see that where the letter forms are super simplified like that. So the two A's don't even have the horizontal lines anymore. and that was either the font or they tweaked it after. I'm not really sure. And then again, this is a look we haven't seen a lot in my logos here. You don't see a lot of these square looks, but they've got like maybe like a relatively evenly balanced graphic on top of the word Tata. One color, very simple, very cool, isn't it? USDA organic, obviously reminiscent of a field. Super simple. Repetition of the green and white. Varta, I don't know what they do, but they repeated the V form in the main graphic. All caps, very block and very simple and nicely kerned letter forms, which appear to be aligned perfectly with the top and the bottom of that block, so it's like one big block. Maybe they do like corn or something. I mean, to me it looks like a seed company or something, but I have no idea. I guess I forgot to look this one up. Virgin Records, another record company. Again, look at the contrast. Super edgy look to their main logo text, and then the word records is reminiscent of a record, like the O is perfectly round and super kerned. So again, that using contrast and pushing that to the edge, all caps, one not, one super edgy font, one super simple and straightforward, one small, one big, one tightly kerned, one really widely kerned. And the placement is perfect. How they tuck the records under there like that. It gives it a nice flow to your eyes. Just go from Virgin to Records without a stutter. It's like nice. Wella Professionals. It's a hair products company, obviously. Again, look at the contrast between Wella and Professionals. That's the whole name, but obviously they're branding the word Wella. Okay, so don't get hung up on thinking that if this is the full name of my company or the full name of you, that it has to be the same. As far as emphasis. This adds. Not only do you sort of help the viewer sort of understand and take away just what you want to. Wella. Professionals, that's probably not important. You're going to remember Wella, 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 right? But also, it just gives it a visual interest. The contrast gives it sort of a visual rhythm. Super cool font. Relates to the image of the hair with its round edges like that. Kind of organic. And then the Professionals font, it's it's a little bit organic too, but much more thin and a little more simplified and straight away, and very very kerned a little bit wider than the Wella, but tucked to flush left to the Wella text, and then centered above everything is the graphic. One color. Whole Foods, I'm sure you've all seen this one. Simple one color. They made the O in the word whole reminiscent of an organic shape. So again, that's just you take an idea, something organic, a leaf, a plant, and you integrate it into the headline directly by making one of the letters actually appear to be that shape. Okay, that's a strategy that you can go to again and again. And the word market, has got this sort of old Americana look to it. It's almost like an old stencil style. The whole bottom part of it kind of looks like a stencil, like you're putting that up against the wall and spray painting. And I think that was purposeful probably as well, to kind of a sense of, we're of the people, even though they're a huge company, Fun store to go into though. Yamaha, I have a Yamaha, actually I used to have a Yamaha keyboard. Yamaha is a music products company. Super simplified logo. I guess I don't know what's going on with that logo shape, why they pick those shapes, But yeah, it almost has this sort of Asian feel to it. And I believe they're a Japanese company. So I'm, obviously, duh, that's probably part of it. It's a character, looks almost like a character, and probably reminiscent of some sort of helmet or tower or something like that. So, but anyways, again, left to the all caps text, perfectly kerned, balanced. Where the circle shape graphic is almost aligned perfectly with the top and the bottom of the Yamaha text. A little bit bigger. Yogi T, super cool font, which relates to the sort of lotus image on top. Very simple image. Um, it almost looks like they made that the eye again. This is an example where instead of in lieu of an eye, they made a shape which is reminiscent of the product. Um, they turned that into the eye, and then the overall shape with the gradient behind it. That's got to feel like an Indian feel. It's reminiscent of a place and a culture. I think this is a really cool logo. Cool font. Like I don't think you'll find a font like that, a free font. I think we saw this one already. Yep, I think we're done now.